In this new series, I'm going to be looking at survival kits and breaking the components down one by one so you know how to build your own survival kit. Stick around. All right, so this is a brand new series for the channel. If you are a follower of Prepared Wanderer, you know that I have done quite a bit of kits, survival kits, different types of bags and way of carrying kits, and putting together different ones using different types of components. It's always a fascinating exercise to do something like that. It really kind of teaches you what to carry in certain situations. But what I want to do is I want to show these components a little bit more closely and on their own, separate from everything else. So what I want to do is make these very kind of bite-sized, digestible videos for you. And what I'm hoping is I can produce and put these out one a day, just in a row. We'll start with this video, and then every day after that there'll be a new short video that you can watch that will talk about a different component of a survival kit. Now, survival kits come in different sizes and shapes and different containers that we put them in. And that all depends on how much you want to carry, what your situation is, how far from home are you. Is this a wilderness situation where you're truly, someplace that is miles and miles from civilization? Or are you on a public hiking trail and you're only an hour from your vehicle? That is going to dictate what you carry with you in your kit. But there are some constants that always need to be in every kit, no matter what the situation is. There are things that we're going to look at that you need to have for every single kit that you assemble. And that's what I want to do, is look at these very closely. So on the table, I have many different kits that I've put together that I'm utilizing for different things. I've got a bag, this little pouch, waterproof pouch from Magpul. This is an EDC kit, so this goes in my daily bag when I'm going to work. So it's very different than, let's say, this fanny pack, which is set up as a standalone sustainment pouch when I'm carrying a backpack and a rifle. So two different situations. And then something like this that's even more elaborate, which is going to be carrying not only a survival kit, but extra tools like knives, flashlights, things like that. So a lot of different variation in sizes. So on today's video, what I want to look at is fire making. Probably one of the most important aspects of any survival kit is your ability to start a fire. And why? Why is that so important? Well, fire does a few things for us in any kind of situation, survival situation. One, it is a way of sterilizing water, so you can boil water if you have a container, and that's something you always should have, is some type of container with you. I think most survival instructors these days are always recommending stainless steel water bottles, single wall. You should always have one of those on you. But if you don't, then you need to have some type of other container like a cup, or even a mess tin like this, which can be a survival kit on its own, but this has the ability to boil water and disinfect it. That's what you want. So that's one reason why fire is so important. Two, fire is a way of signaling. So smoke, flame, those things can be seen and smelled from a distance. So that's always something to consider if you're trying to signal someone to come to you to help you. There is also a psychological benefit to fire. It's a huge benefit. I mean, and I think everybody who's ever camped knows that when you have a campfire going and you sit next to it, there is a calming effect to it. It makes you feel very assured, and I think that's a very primitive kind of thing that's in our DNA from way back being, cavemen The fire was a way of relaxing and calming us, and it was a social setting, so it just makes a lot of sense that fire has such a psychological benefit on us as humans. Fire also provides, and this is probably one of the most important ones, is warmth. Thermoregulation is such an important aspect of survival. You want to be able to stay warm. It can, even in the summer months, if you are wet from a rainstorm and there's any kind of breeze, you can get cold. And so having a fire is going to help keep you warm. So some different fire making capabilities that we're always going to have in our kits. The first thing, of course, is the Bic lighter. I mean, how can you go wrong with the Bic lighter? They work really well. They perform better than most lighters that I've actually used or tested. They're readily available. They're everywhere. Even when the fuel is out, you still have a means of making a spark. So always have 1 to 2 Bic lighters or some kind of lighter in your kit. They make smaller ones for smaller kits, and of course this is the full-size one, so we definitely want a lighter. And then one item that we constantly see in survival kits and bushcraft kits is the ferro rod or ferrocerium rod. There are many different styles and types, and I'll show you a few different ones, but they all basically do the same thing. They are creating a spark or a shower of sparks to get a tinder going. You know, this is a very inexpensive one. I think this is like UST or something like that. I got this at Walmart, but it does a pretty decent job of creating some sparks. You can of course go to a much larger ferro rod like this one. This one's from Firefast. I've done a review of these. They have several different sizes, from really big jumbo ones to the small one. But what's nice about these is this actually has your ferro rod here, right? So you're scraping to get your spark, but then also you have magnesium, and with magnesium you can shave it and create a pile, and then hit that with a spark, and that will ignite and burn very hot. And even the handle can be scraped down as a tinder. So and here are some other ones that I have in my collection. This is a homemade one someone made for me. Jumbo rod, of course, super handy to have something like this because it really sends a huge gob of sparks. This is a typical ferro rod. You'll find it on Amazon. Another good size one. Of course, another homemade one using a deer antler. And then here is another Firefast. This is the big one that they sell. So just depending on the size of kit you have, there's a lot of different ferro rod options that you can pick from. So you have a means of starting the fire with some kind of sparking device or flame. So we have our lighter, we have our ferro rods, of course we have matches. But now you need tinder. Tinder's super important. Because what's going to happen is if you have let's say a small pile of sticks or brush that you're trying to get going. So this is one of my go-tos that I put together. This is cotton balls that have Vaseline rubbed all over them, and then what I do is I stick these in an old film canister. Works great. They burn a very long time. I've done testing on these in the past, and I can get these going, a good flame going for at least 10 minutes. So, and this is something you can make. It's very cheap, doesn't take up a lot of room, and you will always get a bundle of twigs going with this. Some other commercial available ones, fire ribbon. This is a paper product that has been impregnated with kind of a wax accelerant, and what you do is you scrape this with your knife, and then that fluffs it up, and then you hit that with a spark, and boom, you have fire, and this will burn a pretty good long time. So you just cut off the section that you need. Very flat, doesn't take up a lot of room, which is perfect for a small tin. And then we have another type of cotton ball type material. This is from Black and White Fire Starter. They're on Etsy. This is their man-made version of this, but this also has some resin in it as well. These burn a very, very long time. Take these out, fluff them up with your knife, expose the fibers, hit it with a spark, boom. You got a greater chance of getting them in there. Look at that, boom, right away. We've got fat wood and some jute. That always is a great way of making fire. And here's an item that is very underrated, but I think is an excellent addition to a survival kit. That is a candle. What's great about a candle is that it only takes a very small amount of flame to get this going, right? So we hit this with our Bic, this burns. With this type of candle, these votive candles with the metal base on them, you set that on the ground and you put your pile of twigs around it and let the flame do all the work. Sit back and let that get hot, let that flame kick up and start catching the twigs that are around it, and before you know it, you've got the actual tinder bundle going, and you can pull this out, extinguish it, put it away, use it again. So it is a multiple use item. Then of course we have matches. Matches are an interesting item to have. They almost seem unnecessary when you have all this other stuff we're looking at, but there's a nice thing about especially this type of match from these UCO store matches is that you can light these and actually put them in water and they will reignite. So if you're in a very, very damp conditions, maybe it's raining, this is a great way to get a fire going because you can take a couple of these and put them together and create a nice hot strong flame that's going to burn and get that twig bundle going, because that's what we're wanting to do, is we want to get that tinder going before we start adding our larger pieces of wood. Now this is the container that you can actually get at Walmart. What I like to do is with these, I like to put a little bicycle inner tube around that because of course that is a fire starter in itself. That's a great tinder that burns very hot. So there are lots of different options to put in your survival kit for fire making. I always like to have at least 2 different ways of starting a fire. So, you know, the go-to for me usually is a Bic lighter and a ferro rod. I like at least 2 different types of man-made tinder with me. So usually it's going to be the cotton balls with Vaseline and then either a piece of fat wood or something like that. So I have a few options. All right, I hope you found this video useful. This is the first in the series. Be on the lookout for more of these videos coming. We're going to be talking about signaling and water treatment and all kinds of the different stuff that goes into it, making up a survival kit, and hopefully that'll help you put your kit together. Go to the Facebook group. If you haven't seen that yet, check that out. Consider joining that. 10.9 thousand members currently. Lots of people on there posting their ideas on stuff. Also check out Instagram. Lots of additional photos and short videos on there. And then check out preparedwanderer.com. That is my site where I put up articles that are related to the videos that I'm making, as well as links to the Big Cartel site, which has Prepared Wanderer stickers and patches. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Prepared Wanderer.